Welcome to another episode of Sanctuary Radio. This is a podcast brought to you by Sanctuary Recovery Centers. Our mission is to break the stigma surrounding addiction, to empower others to live addiction-free lives, providing hope to those who suffer from addiction and offer continued care and true healing. And I love that true healing part, Haley. And I want to welcome my co-host, of course, as always, beautiful Haley. And today we have our art and music therapist here today, Erin. Welcome, Erin, to the show.
Hello.
Hello. And this is going to be...
like in sync there.
Hello.
I mean, it checks out. We're talking about music therapy today. I mean,
We're harmonizing over here.
we might hit a couple high notes. I don't know.
I don't know.
And so when our mission statement, the true healing, right? And, we have our work shirts and we provide them for the clients and we wear these shirts all over, to represent our mission, which is true healing.
True healing.
And the back of the shirt says true healing, right? And so it's important to understand that in order to truly heal, you got to offer every aspect of recovery.
Right.
You can't leave one out.
Cannot.
Right? What does it talk about in the fifth step, Haley? Do you know where it says we might have skipped on the cement, put the foundation? We try to make mortar without sand.
12-step program.
So we have to make sure that our foundation
Right.
is in line, right? And so in order to do that, we have to provide all the levels of care, which we do here. Not only do we provide, yoga therapy and we have, therapists on staff and we take them to meetings and we're taking them on a retreat this weekend.
Right.
They're going to the nights retreat. We're taking the men.
Super excited for that.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. I mean, you name it, we do it. And a very, very important, integral part of what we offer here at Sanctuary is our music therapy. And that is Miss Erin's field. So we have her on the show today to explain a little bit about that. So Erin, why don't you take a moment just to kind of share, what you do here, the type of different, because you do music, you do art. So just share a little bit about, what it is exactly that you provide for all of our clients here.
It's hard to sum it all up because there's so many different aspects to music and art that we can utilize in group. And so for me, being in recovery, I get to find creative ways to teach not only therapeutic topics, but also recovery topics, 12-step topics. 12 steps is a part of my story. And so I always get them engaged with music and art and then kind of slide in through the back door with that 12-step.
Yeah.
Just a little sneaky.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because you got some people who, they've been, 12 steps was impressed upon them and they're, so we always got to figure out a way to kind of slip it in. That's all of our paths.
Right.
We all know there's multiple, paths to recovery. And just you guys know as well as I know that, every path of recovery, whether it's cognitive behavioral therapy, smart recovery, 12-step path, a religious path, whatever the path is, it's all the same material, just different delivery.
Exactly.
Same with all the self-help books.
Right.
So you could always find a way to bring it back around. That's what you do. You bring it back around with the music and the art therapy that you do here. So how long have you been doing the music therapy and art therapy?
So I've been professionally practicing since 2017.
Professional. That means you get paid.
I get paid, I know.
I mean,
I love my job.
that's the best thing, when we get to pursue our passion and get paid for it, it doesn't
Right.
feel like work. Does it feel like work?
No, it feels like every day is a fun day.
Every day?
Every day.
Well, she is the
What a-
music and art therapist.
So we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is my job to make sure that they know that they can have fun in recovery.
Right.
And so in order to show them that, we got to have fun.
Yeah, if we're not having fun, we're not going to do it.
What's the point?
Haley, what are you doing for fun right now?
What do I do for
I
fun?
mean, you're wearing a belt buckle right now.
I
Did you
know.
earn that thing? I mean, I know you got to
So
earn those
this
belt
one is
buckles.
actually my boyfriend's, but I
Oh.
have earned one for trick riding
Oh,
and
okay.
an all-around cowgirl belt buckle that got stolen in my addiction, but I did earn it, so
Oh,
I just don't know proof.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just wondering.
But I am going to a rodeo this weekend, so I like to have fun.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do like to have fun. And that's the whole point. And so Erin brings that aspect to our program, the therapy, the art, the fun. And, we're all over social media. We post consistently. Haley, what's our social media handles?
It's TikTok,
Oh, TikTok.
Instagram, and Facebook, and it's all at
Oh, is that the
Sanctuary Recovery Center.
trifecta?
Yep.
Oh, at Sanctuary Recovery
And
Center?
we really do have a lot of fun with our TikToks. I love putting Jason on the TikTok. He's so uncomfortable on TikTok, and I'm so uncomfortable on
I
the
don't like it.
podcast.
My ego
So
doesn't
we're-
like it. I'll tell you that right now. I don't like it.
So it's kind of, we're like the dynamic duo here.
And so, if you want to see, we're going to be talking about her story, Erin's story, her journey, how she got into the field, the education that she's received, how she landed here at Sanctuary after, all the years of experience. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today. But if you want to go see some of the art, we remember these clients aren't, artists really, are they?
Some are.
But in actuality, there's no right or wrong way to do creative expression. And so,
unless you're a perfectionist like me,
at the end of the day, even if you're a perfectionist, it's beautiful. And I always let them know that, even if it's just popsicle sticks, like hanging on by a thread they did their best.
Sure. And it's up for interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see any of the, we post consistently to share. We want everybody out there to see the level of care that we provide, the type of services that we provide, and the environment that we provide. So if you want to see, a lot of the different art pieces that have been pushed out, go to our social media and check it out. But you don't just get to be here 2022 Sanctuary without a journey, because every one of our staff members has a story. And the crazy part about it is that Haley and Erin have known each other. They worked at a different facility together, right? And so when I think about that, and maybe you guys could tell me if you feel the same way I do, but there's these times through awareness I get to see my higher power, the way he works in my life, and I'll recognize faces. I'll work at other places with people. Right. I'll continuously see the same person at every 12-step meeting, and eventually I sponsor Witness a Miracle. They work with us. Right. Whatever the case may be, you guys met. Whatever the journey was to get here, now you're here.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think God has assembled this team here at Sanctuary to provide true healing. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yes.
Same. Yep.
I mean, were you guys friends in the beginning?
Stop, Jason. I think it was a rocky start. I will say that. But I feel like ever since, we connected here at Sanctuary, we both had some growth.
And so, and I get that, right? And so it's the environment. It's the right time, the right place, the right people, the right environment. And when we're all doing our part, we get to gel together as a team, which we do now. Yeah. But again, your journey starts somewhere. And so I want to get back to that and kind of hear from you a heck of a lot more than me just speaking, because I like to talk.
Yeah, you do like to talk.
Do I talk more than you?
You absolutely do, but it's probably because I'm nervous, because normally when I don't have a podcast going on, I talk just as much as you do. So.
Okay. Well,
you're not alone. I'm nervous too.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
When you're uncomfortable, you're growing. Exactly. I know that to be true.
I am talking more on the podcast, I will say that.
You are?
Yeah.
That's nice. It's good to hear from you. I mean, we're talking about music, and I hear that you might have a voice of an angel. Yeah. I might need to hear a little bit about that. But let's talk about Erin. So, Erin, let's start from the beginning. So you were born in California, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about this previously. What was the name of the city or the town that you were born in? Let's hear about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Moore Park, and we used to get teased from all of the sports teams that we played from other schools because Moore Park spelled backwards is crap room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
It lived up to that. For me, personally, I definitely felt like living in a crap room.
So is that in like Northern California, Southern California, somewhere in the middle?
It is somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely central, kind of near Santa Barbara, Ventura County area.
Nice. Okay, so, when we really think about, our childhood and, as we all know, working in the field, that the family dynamic and the things that we've been through as children, that they play an important role in, the characteristics we adopt as adults through the teenage years. So maybe I think it'd be great if you shared a little bit about what the family dynamic was like growing up, what that looked like for you.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting family dynamic. From as long as I can remember, my mom and dad started a business right when I was born. And so they were always working and not really present in my life. My older brother is actually the one that basically watched me and raised me. And my dad was always traveling for work. He wasn't home that much. Same with my mom. They worked together. In fact, there was one night that my brother Daniel was supposed to be babysitting me because my dad and mom had a business dinner. And I don't know why we thought this would be fun, but those fold-out couches that turn into a bed? Mm-hmm. We had one of those, and we thought it'd be really cool if he stuffed me inside.
So it was his idea, I'm assuming, because I have an older sister.
Well, I honestly can't remember whose idea it was, but I was all for it.
Right.
So it was definitely a joint effort. I climbed in. I don't know why I thought I would be cold. I wrapped myself in a blanket, which was not a good idea. And he stuffed me in. But he said, he was only 3 years older than me, and guys take a little bit longer to develop, and he wasn't strong enough to pull me back out. So I was stuck in this couch, and for it felt like forever. He was freaking out, called all kinds of people to help, get me out. Called my mom. She rushed home. The neighbor came over. I think there were firemen. I don't know. But they eventually got me out, and I remember I was shaking because I'd been sweating in there with this blanket around me. And my mom grabbed a beer, popped it open, and said, "Here, drink this. It will calm you down."
Oh, give you a beer. And that's what they used to do back in the day, right? I know I have a newborn, right? And so my aunt came out from New York, and she's like, yeah, just give you,
a little
drink.
whiskey on the gun.
Yeah, it's a little whiskey on the gun.
I used to get hot toddies when I was sick as a kid.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
And so those some of the experience that you have, and when you look back at those, you get to see, the beginnings of that, and having a lot of free time. A lot of times with all the guys that I work with and all the clients, men and women, and I always ask them if you had a cool mom. We all know about cool. Hey, did you have a cool mom?
My mom was as cool as it gets.
Yeah, cool moms and cool dads usually get us into trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
both my parents were pretty cool. My mom was never around, and that's what made her cool. Because she was always working, But my dad was pretty cool too. So
you actually went to a Christian grade school.
I did.
What was that like?
It was horrible. So
we're talking uniforms?
And I really struggled with the God concept because I went to this Christian school. We had religion as a class. We got tested on Bible verses every Friday. We went to chapel every Wednesday. But the kids there just bullied me something fierce. And I just, had a bad taste in my mouth. I had resentments towards God from the start, from the get-go. Like, this sucks. This is supposed to be a Christian school where we treat each other with brotherly love. But I got picked on for being ugly, for being fat, for not knowing fashion because my parents had put all their money into this business and didn't have the money to get us nice clothes.
Right.
And so I got teased for not knowing how to do my hair, not knowing how to do my makeup, grew up a tomboy. So.
Right. And so that, so many people, being bullied, and the way it affects you, your self-esteem, the value that you have for yourself, and you can carry that for quite a long time. And it's something that I think that everybody needs to do a better job educating the children, looking out for the children, talking to our kids about it, making sure they're living in the solution and not contributing to the problem, because it's something. So I had a sponsee who he was bullied something pretty fierce like that too, and it affected him for years and years and years. And we actually I said, well, we got to do something, because just like recovery, everything needs some sort of action behind it. And we actually went to a Boys and Girls Club, pulled over, went in there, asked if we could speak to the kids about bullying. And in that moment, he started to switch the attachment to it and became grateful for it. As we know, the way we do 12-step work, right? It switches the attachment to it. I know you've created a new attachment in your full recovery. You're actually coming up on 10 years of recovery.
Wow, it's true.
10-piece chicken McNugget.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wild ride.
Wild ride. And so you end up going to high school, and that's where you start drinking, and you identify as a true alcoholic. I mean, if you smoke weed, what did high school look like for you?
So high school, it was a culture shock for me because I'd come from this small private school where nobody liked me and I was bullied all the time. So I had a lot of insecurities. I go to this high school that only 4 of those people that went to my private school went to. And so it was just all new people, fresh start.
Yeah, fresh start.
And it turns out people actually did like me. And so I don't know, I just ran with that and started to feed into the bullshit, really, and got into some toxic relationships.
Taylor, you know about that, huh?
Yeah.
I wish I didn't, but I have so many stories.
Another show, another time.
Yeah.
Podcast.
And that contributed to my drinking. And so I started singing with these groups. As a singer, I grew up as Sweet Adeline, and that is a female barbershopper. I sing 4-part a cappella.
Nice.
Yes. But in the society, they have it's like their own world. It's their own culture. And in California, Southern California in particular, they used to describe themselves as drinkers with a singing problem.
Oh, okay.
And I used to just laugh about that because I was like, it's so true. But it wasn't as funny when I
that's progression.
Problem.
Yeah, not so funny anymore. When the consequences start to pile up in all the different areas of your life, then it isn't so funny. No. But it's crazy how long it takes us to actually get to that, the pain that we have to go through, the desperation, the negative consequences. Alcoholic addicts, man, we have a high tolerance for pain. You know what's crazy about the pain tolerance, though? How many times, if we all think about our stories, how many times were we at a point where it was so painful that we were willing to do something else? We were ready. Right. But the problem is we didn't do it long enough to get recovery, and we got relief when we mistook. We see that all the time. We mistook it for recovery, but it was only relief. So you smoke weed a couple times? I mean, what's that look like for you?
So in my toxic relationships, I was the drinker and they were typically the smokers. And so I tried to get into it. I even got my own pipe that changed colors.
Oh, you got the chameleon? Oh, yeah.
I don't know the terminology. I was just along for the ride. But,
Haley knows.
Oh man, those were the days.
You look like a 6-foot bong type chick.
Listening was 3 foot.
Oh, 3 foot. Okay, my bad. Oh, the gravity?
The gravity bong.
Let me know something then.
It was out of control. I was at 11 too. That's what I had at 11.
It was bigger than you.
It was. Yeah, I was standing on a stool.
Yeah.
It was bad. Good times.
And so you smoked weed though, and what kind of reaction did you have from it?
It just made me extremely paranoid. It turned off that part of my brain that would tell me that I'm full, and so I just ate.
That's the worst.
And I just put on so much weight that I felt disgusting. It just wasn't
your jam.
It wasn't my jam.
No, it wasn't your jam. And so you graduate high school, and you've been in a band, a group, and you're singing all the time, and you had this passion for music, and so you decide you go to Cal State Fullerton.
I did, yes.
Shout out Cal State Fullerton.
Cal State.
You gonna shout them out, or?
Yeah, Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, there it is.
I put in Titans.
Titans.
I mean, it's a really hazy part of my life.
I had a few years that are pretty hazy.
Since that high school party
1997, sophomore year of high school. It's been hazy since.
I was 4 then.
No, you were 4 then.
I was 4 in your high school party that you always talk about.
You're young still.
Did I just age you on the podcast?
I mean, I'm 40.
I'm just kidding, Jason.
And so you end up going to school, you're a double major, right? What was your double major in?
And so because my dad was really pushing me to work for his company, I went into marketing. But music was my passion, and so I auditioned for the music program, and I got in, and music education was my second major. But the way that music majors, the program is just so ridiculous that you have to pile on classes just to be a full-time student. And so I would be taking like 7-8 classes a semester.
God, that's a lot.
Thank you.
Are we talking 100 level classes or 300 level classes? A little bit of all of it?
A little bit of all of it. And that's just the thing is with music, you could be in a 300 studio where you get voice lessons every week. You are given 4 to 7 repertoire songs that you need to memorize in different languages. And
can you sing songs in different languages?
I can.
Wow.
I can. German is my favorite.
German.
This is the first time hearing of this.
We might have to cue something up later. I might be able to find something on you. I don't know. I'm going to ask production to see if they can find something for me.
We got this team of 4 over here.
The production team will have to pull something up for you. But you're in a group this whole time, and it's very common for people who are in bands and music and groups that the drinking and the partying goes with being in music. So I assume that if you're an alcoholic, which you identify as, and you're in recovery and you work in recovery, that at some point drinking is going to get in the way of college.
Oh yes. So it got to a certain point that I was just drinking so much that I would become dependent on alcohol to function and didn't realize it. And so I would drink first thing in the morning, show up to classes sauced. I would be like stumbling on my way home. I lived close enough that I could ride my bike, so luckily I wasn't driving during this
So you were
time.
swerving on the bike?
But I was swerving on the bike.
Can you get a DUI on the bike?
I think you
You
can.
can't.
Wow.
Arizona will give you DUI for anything.
Literally, you gotta walk
A
in.
hoverboard.
DUI.
Moped.
Yeah, and so eventually I just used any excuse to leave, and I dropped out of college to pursue my drinking career. You know, moved back home where they had all the alcohol, and just kind of rode that life for a bit.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna continue drinking. I mean, but in your mind, were you gonna be in like a true professional musician and a singer and a songwriter? Were you leaving college to pursue that, or to drinking and hopefully that would work out?
So I had given up on music
Okay.
altogether, and when I moved home, I just kind of surrendered to the fact that I was going to work for my dad.
Like, here we go. I'm gonna have to work for dad.
So that's what I did. Is when I moved back home, I started to go to work every day. I'd show up way late, leave way early, not do anything when I was there. I had no idea what my title was, what they were expecting of me.
They just basically gave you a check to show up sometimes.
It was horrible. And then I was supposed to be in charge of some sales, but whenever the phone rang, I would like hide under the desk. I wasn't there.
But so now at this point, though, you're becoming almost, you're physically dependent
Yes.
to alcohol. I mean, we're not talking, where you just feel crappy, restless, irritable, and discontent in the morning. We're talking about like, opiate addicts feel like they're going to die when they're in withdrawal, but they're not. But alcoholics can die. And you start to experience some very severe withdrawal symptoms, which, you can't work. And I know there's a couple of experiences, but what were some of the withdrawal symptoms that you were experiencing?
Oh, I've got great stories. So there came a time when I would just throw up for 6 hours straight. But what was weird is after 6 hours, I was like, oh, I'm good.
I feel better now.
I'm done now.
Just 6 hours
Good.
thrown up.
Just
It's
6
normal.
hours,
That's
yeah.
normal.
Just gotta make it through 6 hours and I'll be fine. But, that didn't stop me from drinking. I kept drinking. And I remember I was hanging out with a friend. We were walking through Walmart and I ended up having a seizure. And what was crazy is we were looking for movies to bring home and watch. And he gave one to me to hold and said, we're not getting it, but I just think that, these kind of movies freak me out. And I wasn't comprehending because I was already slipping into like I'm about to go into a seizure. And so he hands this movie to me and it's The Devil Inside Me.
And then you start seizuring.
And then I start seizuring and he was freaked out.
So when you had a seizure, were you gripping that in your hand the whole time? Like clutching it?
Probably.
I think I had somehow put it back. I don't know. Actually, when they brought me to, I was so confused. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember like the code of my phone. I kept giving them my social or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something crazy.
Yeah, you were out of
It
it.
takes a while to come out of a seizure.
Yeah, it sure does. And, once we start having seizures and we start experiencing those types of negative physical consequences from our alcoholism and our addiction,
Right.
I mean, it's the progression. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse. And, you seeing the progression, I mean, that has to cause you some fear and some panic.
Mhm.
After that seizure, what was life like after that?
So they rushed me to the hospital and they did all these kind of tests on me and they were trying to call someone to pick me up. But my mom, she had already had plans and she said, if you're having a seizure, it's something that you're doing. So it's your fault. You figure it out. So I called my brother and he was there for me. And after all these tests, the doctor comes in and says, we can't find anything wrong with you other than the fact that your blood alcohol content is off the charts. You're going through withdrawal. And I said, I was just drinking last night and only people that are trying to quit go through withdrawal. So I think you're wrong and I want a second opinion.
I need a second opinion and I need a bottle of Grey Goose.
The seizure wasn't enough.
I need
so I'm
the
gonna
goose.
Yeah.
What
What
did you like to drink, though? Just curious.
I did not discriminate.
Okay.
If it had alcohol, I would go for it. It got to a point where I was like,
Even hand
99.
sanitizer?
no.
Like Haley looks like a hand sanitizer type.
No.
And I didn't
Actually,
even
I
know
drink
about
Hazel.
mouthwash
I was
until
gonna
I
say,
got
that
to
sounds
rehab.
like you, Jason.
You drink mouthwash in rehab?
No, I said I didn't know about
you
it
didn't know
until
about
I
it.
got to rehab and people were telling their stories. I'm like, dang, I didn't have to do that.
I had a client that used to
Didn't
drink
know.
his cologne because of
Ooh.
the alcohol in it.
What kind?
I don't know, but it was cologne. Just didn't even go to the store. Like,
But
I
ultimately,
really wouldn't drink that bad.
Aaron, the fear and the panic sets
Right.
in, right? And so you live for a period of time, and we've had the opportunity, we work together, we've had some conversations, and you started to experience a fear and panic, and that almost started to consume you just as much as the alcoholism did. And ultimately that leads into an awakening you have. So I want you just to touch briefly on the fear, the panic, how you were attaching to that, and then ultimately the awakening you have one day at work.
So, the doctor placed this fear in me by saying, you were lucky this time, there was no brain damage, but you might not be as lucky next time, these things can kill you. And so that's where the fear came in, and it was crippling. I was afraid to walk downstairs because what if I had a seizure and I fell and broke my neck? I was afraid to go to the bathroom because what if something happens to me behind a closed door and no one can get to me because it's locked. And so that is actually what set off my panic attack at work. Is I was in the bathroom and the door was locked and I lost it. And so I came out of the bathroom and I basically fainted, but someone caught me, dragged me into the conference room and said, we need to go get Dan and let him know what's going on. And it just broke my heart not because Dan is my boss, but because Dan is my dad.
Right.
And so, for him to see me like this on the floor, that was my awakening, that this is I'm going to die if I keep doing this. And so they took me to a urgent care to see what was wrong with me. And they took my blood pressure. It was 160/80. And he told me that 165 is fatal. You're too young to have a heart attack or a stroke. I don't know what's wrong with you. And I said, I think that perhaps I might have a slight little problem with drinking.
A little
just
baby,
a little tiny baby hiccup in
a little baby problem called alcoholism.
Yeah, and so that took everything for me to say out loud, and he just said, no, I don't think that's it. And I was like,
no, I'm pretty sure it's it.
Yeah,
Wait,
pretty sure.
What? So I tried to be in denial for only a couple more days, but I was checking my blood pressure religiously. And I remember my mom was teasing me one day, Erin thinks she's dying again. And I just got so mad that I yelled at her and I was like, you don't understand. I'm an alcoholic. And if you don't get me help right now, I'm going to die. And she did not take that very well, because I was yelling at her and she doesn't take confrontation well. And so she felt like it was an attack.
Right.
But she was on the phone with my aunt and my aunt said, Terry, this is a good thing. We need to jump on this now while she's willing, get her into a rehab. They researched places and the first place they called had a 2-week waiting list. And I said, I'm going to be dead by then.
Yeah, I can't wait 2 weeks.
I need this
It's
now.
serious. It's
So,
life or death.
so we found this place in Scottsdale, Arizona called Sundance that had openings for me right now. And so we just packed up everything and I flew out to Arizona for treatment. We did a little detox. I showed up and it was a beautiful experience.
And that was 2012, and that's where your journey really starts. And I want to hear a lot about, your experience there, getting introduced to the 12 steps toward the end. But ultimately, that's where you really get pushed into the music, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and I actually know a therapist there, suggested that, you'd be a great fit for a music and art therapist. So what was she hearing you sing in the shower or?
I was always singing around the house.
You're always singing around?
And it was part of my story too, opening up, telling him about my...
Well, while we got you on air, would you mind singing a song for us right now?
I don't really like being put on the spot.
You don't want to be put on the spot. Oh, you're not vocally warmed up? It's kind of early?
It is kind of early.
I know Haley stays warmed up. Haley, why don't you kick us a jam real quick?
I like big...
Stop. No.
Right?
Okay, we're going to cut it there. But you want to know one thing? We want to know one thing about Sanctuary Radio and this podcast and the production team that we have. We do our homework.
Key it up, production.
Key it up.
Life's too hard to bear.
think that I had you queued up already. So we do our homework here, and I've heard the whole song and I've listened to it multiple times. It's a beautiful song, and when I hear lyrics like that, it leads me to believe, because every song comes from a writer, and you're a singer-songwriter as well. You wrote this song. So why don't you share a little bit about that song, where they could find that song, the message behind it, because I know there's a whole story behind it. Why don't you take a moment to share that?
So that song was actually based off of a piece of art that I did at Sundance. We didn't have music therapy, but we did have art therapy. And the prompt that day was draw a crevice, yourself, a bridge, and the direction that you're headed. And I didn't come up with a normal, like, this is the Grand Canyon, and I'm crossing the bridge towards the lollipops and unicorns, and behind me is death and misery.
Yeah.
What I drew was a girl standing in front of a mirror that was broken, and the frame was my bridge. And
wow.
And the direction I was headed was, someone mentioned hope. So I did have a little rainbow behind my head to symbolize that hope, but I didn't know what hope was. And so it was there in the back of my mind, but I couldn't see it fully yet. And so when I explained what each thing was to my therapist, and how the bridge was the frame, where
right.
bridges are supposed to take you from one place to another, my bridge was keeping me trapped inside these prison walls, which is one of the lyrics.
Literally,
yeah. And so after explaining this, she extended my stay.
Oh, she said, we're going to need an extension. Wait, hold up. We got a whole new bag of worms open up.
Oh, man. And I was so mad. I was like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You tell us to be authentic and honest and open up like this, be vulnerable. And I pour my heart out into this picture, and you extend my stay.
Yeah.
I was not happy.
Your journey wasn't over yet.
It wasn't over. It was just beginning. But it was the best thing that they could have done for me.
Right.
Sure. And when looking back now, when we do our part and we get to see how everything works out, and where we are today and everything we had to go through to get there, we get to the point where we wouldn't want to change anything, just out of fear that we wouldn't have the life that we have today.
Right.
And so ultimately you end up going to ASU after that, but I'm going to come back to the Sundance and your experience there. And you write the song while you're going to college based off the picture, and that's where the lyrics come from. But what was your experience like at the treatment center you were at? You got introduced to 12-step. Were they doing art and music therapy there too?
They did art, but they didn't do music therapy. I didn't know about music therapy until my therapist talked to me about it. He said, I know that music has been a huge part of your life, and you have a way with people. I really think that you should pursue this. And we did some research and found that ASU has one of the few programs in the nation, which was just like this God shot.
Right, because you went to treatment in Arizona.
Yeah.
And ASU's in Arizona.
I was all lined up.
I'm slow here, so I'm piecing it all together.
You're connecting the dots.
Just in case some other slow people.
All right, Haley's with us.
Yeah.
Haley, there's more to ASU than Mill Avenue. I hate to break it to you.
I never even
I had some good
I'm
times.
from Wickenburg. You know how far it is to go
Oh, you
to
got
ASU
you got
from
the Taco
Wickenburg?
Bell.
Yeah.
That's about all you got.
The Taco Bell, the one McDonald's, and the 3 stoplights.
Okay, all right.
That's
There's
a pretty
3 of
big
them.
town.
Pretty big town.
Yeah.
And so you end up, but before we move on to ASU and your history and your work in the field and all of your accomplishments and everything that you've been able to do, and ultimately working here, you got introduced, because your path of recovery is 12-step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you got introduced to the 12 steps during your stay in treatment. I just want you to share briefly about the journey of the 12-step path that you took, working with your sponsor. Maybe just if you can touch on just some of the things that really stick out to you when you think about that journey. I'd really like to hear about that.
Yeah. So I didn't get a sponsor right away. I was leaning on the fact that I was getting, I had 2 primary therapists that I was seeing twice a week. For both of them, I was attending groups. We were going to meetings outside of the house every once in a while. And, they did 1, 2, and 3 as a part of the curriculum. And so I was like, okay, I'm good.
I'll be good. I'll be all right.
But then towards the end of my stay, I realized, when I leave here, when I leave the bubble, that's what we called it, I'm not going to have this access to therapy all the time. I'm not going to have
support,
access to these groups. And I started to freak out. And so they took us to a meeting. And at the end, when they say, you know, are there any, does anyone have anything that they would like to say? And I raised my hand and said, I need a sponsor.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have something to say. I need a
I
sponsor.
need a sponsor.
Help.
Did you have a bunch of people come up to you immediately?
I did.
That's
I
the
did.
beautiful
And
thing
I
about
got some
fellowship.
numbers, and there was one in particular that I kind of just felt she had a beautiful energy. And so I called her, and she became my sponsor, and she is still my sponsor today.
Wow, 10 years later.
10 years
I know.
later.
That's crazy.
She's going to be a bridesmaid.
Nice, because you're
Wow.
getting married soon. We're going to talk about the
June 12th,
blessings.
everybody.
Yeah, shout out. And so when you think about that, you know, being as though you went to, you know, a Christian school and you were bullied there, and it was, you know, the attachment that you have towards God, and almost being forced on you, and a negative experience. So when you get to step 2 and you come to believe in a power greater than yourself, I know there's a part in there where it talks about being, you know, religion being impressed upon you, the word God brought up a particular idea of him, which someone tried to impress on you during childhood. And we almost have resentments at times toward God.
Right.
And we all know that, you know, the easiest way that I could describe the difference between, you know, the spirituality and religion is spirituality is an experience and religion is kind of organized, right?
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the 12-step path, that is usually the biggest obstacle for many individuals, many people. Was that an obstacle for you when you read We Agnostic Step 2?
It was, but it was that promise of you don't have to believe anyone's concept of
Use
God.
your own conception.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, no matter what it is, you know, it will suffice. And so I took that God that I was mad at, the one that wasn't there for me in my traumas and my darkest times, and I kicked him out the window. And actually the rooms of AA became my God, really, that group of drunks. And from there it blossomed. But, you know, I had that willingness to believe in something greater than myself. And that's where it started.
Yeah, and so it's just about a willingness. I mean, it says, you know, in the literature, it says, you know, just have to admit the possibility of the existence. Our inadequate belief is sufficient. I don't have to believe what everyone, it's open to all men, as long as you're willing and honest enough to try. I mean, it says that, you know, and, you know, when people use the fellowship as their higher power, you know, I dig that. I can relate to that because I believe my God wears people clothes. And I believe that when I go to meetings and I have something on my heart and I hear someone share about it, and I believe that's God speaking to me. And so sometimes it'll evolve and it'll turn in, but a lot of times it doesn't have to, right? It's something that we attach to for strength to continue to do the next right thing and to recover from this thing. And that's ultimately what you do. You recovered. I mean, we're coming up on 10 years.
Coming up.
And we're coming up on 10.
No fronting.
No fronts. Haley, you got 9. No fronts for you, Haley.
Oh, man.
You got bad credit, player.
I do have bad credit. How'd you know? I've worked on it. I've worked on it in my recovery.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
The weaponize a program, right? I hate when people say that. Oh, progress, not okay. I hear you. But anyways, and so you ultimately get out of treatment and you start your life and you go to ASU and you graduate from ASU and you get some degrees at ASU and you start to pursue your passion in music therapy, and ultimately that leads you to start working in the recovery field. So 2017 is when you begin your journey in the behavioral health field. So I you know, what's it been like working? I know you've worked at several different places. You've learned, you know, a mass amount of information and experience through all the different places. So just kind of share about what the journey's been like for you working in the field since 2017.
It's been an absolute blessing. So I got my internship over at Aurora, where I came in as a music therapist, and they taught me adjunctive therapies, which means I had to know how to do art. I ran gym. It was fun. We had a good time.
When did you start Aurora?
2017.
And then which one?
Oh, Tempe.
Tempe, shout out.
2017.
Oh, you were there?
I was in detox at Aurora, so I'm trying to see if maybe.
It's quite possible. I was there for like a full year.
So yeah, she probably was my music and art therapist, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, she probably was.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
I just
easy.
pieced that
It was
Yeah.
easy.
together.
You've connected a lot of dots during this.
I know.
I
All
was
these
awake
good
today.
things.
I had a couple cups of
And
coffee.
you're awake.
Firing on all levels. I like it.
And so, you know, so explain more about, you know, the different levels of, you know, the type of therapy that you do.
Before I do that, I do want to mention how when I started at Aurora, I also got a job over at Promises where I worked specifically inpatient houses for substance abuse. And this was the most magical experience for me because Promises is actually Sundance. So Promises bought out Sundance, and so I got to go back to my original rehab and,
that's awesome.
and provide music therapy there, and it was just the most amazing experience.
Yeah, because I mean, you become, that's one of the most beautiful things, because then you become visual proof to all the clients that you can recover, you can come back, you can work in the field, you can have an amazing life, and they get to see someone who sat in the same chairs that they did,
Right.
and now they've recovered, and that's that visual proof and that hope that sometimes they just need a little bit of hope to want to do something different. And that's an extraordinary experience to be a part of. And so from there, your career kind of takes off, and then you continue to move up in the field. What's the last 5 years been like for you working in behavioral health?
Well, like I said, it's just been one big blessing, and it's just so fascinating how it's like building blocks. When I first started, I was working 1 day a week where I could work on my toolbox, and then gradually they started adding more days.
Right.
And eventually, now I'm like full time, every day. And there are some clients that have been here over 90 days that have not repeated a session. And this is important to me specifically because when I extended my stay in treatment, I had to repeat a lot of stuff, and
Right.
specifically the art therapy. They only had 3 prompts, and then 1 day was a free art day. And so I did those 3 prompts twice and had a lot of free art.
Sure.
And I was like, I don't want clients to have to do that. And so it's my goal that they don't have to. And so when I get these opportunities where clients keep extending their stay, it challenges me too, to keep it interesting for them, keep it new, keep it fresh, keep it exciting. Because like I said, I want to make recovery exciting.
Sure. Right. And if you look on our social media, you'll see that there hasn't been one repeated post because they're consistently doing, that's always a challenge for me at the residential, is when people are extended, and we've had people there for 6 months, 9 months in the material, and how do you keep it fresh, and how do you present it in a new way? What other things do you introduce in there? And so just keeping it fresh and keeping them engaged and stimulated to want to continue to make change, especially with art and everything that we do, is just extremely important. And so ultimately, you've been doing this for a long, long time, and you find your way here. We opened up our IOP about, what's it been, 4 months ago now?
It was at the end of January, right?
Yeah,
at the beginning of the year. So we opened in the beginning of the year, and we hired you on right away. And, we've had this journey for you. And, since you found recovery over the last 10, and everyone has this misconception that everything, when you find recovery, everything is just amazing. There's no struggles. You don't experience any negative aspects, that everything's just amazing. And, I will say that I've been on a pink cloud for over 4 years in my recovery, but it's because I continue to do those things that led me to get on that cloud. I hate when people say you come off the pink cloud. I don't believe that in my own personal experience, but that doesn't mean that, trauma doesn't happen, loss doesn't happen,
right.
Emotional
relapse.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but it's not as bad as it was when I was sitting in prison, right? So how bad of a day is it really? Not that bad, right? But you experienced, some hardships, one in particular. Would you like to share about that?
Yeah, so this past year has been the hardest year of my recovery by far. On top of, my fiance's mother passed away, and then I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and then 6 months later, my mom passes away on my 9-year.
On the day?
On the day she passed away from alcoholism. She was diagnosed with MS when she was 39. And so when I got the text message a couple days before the date that she had fallen, we rushed to the hospital, but everyone, even her, thought that, her legs were just giving out because of the MS and that she was going to need a wheelchair. And when I got to the hospital, she was already slipping in and out of consciousness, not really able to answer simple questions. But I do remember, and I will hold on to this for forever, that I was there, and when she was somewhat awake, and her last words to me were, "I love you." Wow. And I know that, she was just kind of mimicking me because I said hi. She said hi. I said, "I love you." She said, "I love you."
Right.
But, I don't care. She said it.
Yeah,
and those are her last words before she slipped away. And I remember thinking, once again, that resentment towards God comes in.
Why?
Like, what the, why? And then, of course, the selfishness of, like, on my sober birthday. Like, it's all about me. Like, well, got to come up with a different date. No, just kidding. But I actually had someone say, do you feel like drinking because of this? And my response, 10 years ago, I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be drinking in there,
right?
But then my response was, my mom is dying of alcoholism.
Yeah.
How disrespectful would that be for me to pick up a drink right now in response to that? And that resentment towards God didn't last very long because I was like, please, like, enlighten me. Like, what? Why? And I realized that on that day, 9 years ago, my mom was holding my hand as she took me to treatment where I could be reborn. On that day, same day, I was holding her hand the day that she was set free and she was reborn.
Nice.
I'm tearing up over here, guys.
Yeah, and so when you look at it, that's a beautiful thing about recovery is, when these experiences happen, that we're able to be there and be present and be available and contribute and be that shining light for our family in every aspect of it. And, people need to hear that, right? Because they think that just because we're sober now for some years that we don't experience any struggles. When I go to meetings, my favorite thing to do and what I always try to do is share what I'm struggling with so people know, like, I'm not perfect. I struggle with things all the time, but I don't have to use over them.
Right.
And when we experience loss of family members and we don't use over it, that is so powerful. And to attach to the way you have and through awareness, you see the whole experience, how, I believe nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And it was supposed to be on that day for a reason because, you were able to have that attachment to her passing. I think it's an extremely powerful experience.
It is.
But you're getting married.
Same
Well, you're getting married.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Where are you guys getting married?
San Diego.
Oh, Mission
beach
Beach.
wedding?
Mission
Actually, it's going to be further inland in a castle. But we are staying on the beach.
Wow.
So we wanted the best of both worlds.
Nice.
And where are you guys going for your honeymoon?
Bora Bora.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you've been working on the
Gotta pay for it somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
My parents have traveled all over the place, and they stand by. They've been everywhere, and they say that is the most beautiful place that they have ever been. We're gonna need pictures.
Oh yes,
100%.
We're gonna need pictures.
Jason's gonna be a little jealous. He's gonna inspect the pictures. He's gonna get
just like the Sedona trip.
Like the Sedona trip.
I wasn't invited on that. I'm not invited on the honeymoon.
I hope not.
That'd be weird. That'd be weird.
Didn't you just celebrate 12 years of marriage last week, right?
I did 12 years.
Wow.
It's a miracle.
It is a miracle. She's stuck with you through so much.
She loves me.
She does.
She does. And so, now here we are, and we're part of this big picture. You're an integral, part of everything that we do here. And, as we continue to grow from the residentials that we're opening up, from, the other PHP houses, and one just opened up this week, we're continuing to bring more clients in. We got a 16-bed hotel. All these things are happening, and now you get to lay the foundation for the art and music therapy as we continue to go along. And it's just, we're a team here at True Healing, and it takes a team in order to provide that. So I really appreciate you being on the show today and sharing your experience, and, reach out to us. Where can they find us, Haley?
At sanctuaryrecoverycenters.com on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
So yeah, shout it out, like her stuff, see the work that Erin does. We love to hear about it. We love to hear your thoughts.
So I messed that up. I think I said .com on the end of that.
You did. I didn't want to go there, but you
Sanctuary
did.
Recovery Centers. I don't know where the .com came, but I had to clean that one up for me.
Yeah, thank you.
I was a little haze for a second, but it's all good.
You connected all the dots, but that one, but you connected them later.
I literally said .com, so that's all good. It happened. friends.
Just look us up, Sanctuary Recovery
Right.
Center, Sanctuary RC. Find us everywhere. We're all over the place. Go to our website.
Yeah.
Leave us comments. Search us out. Like our stuff. Follow our stuff. We got this amazing journey that's unfolding. The podcast is just one aspect of it. To
Right.
continue to bring on people who work with us, to continue to start to bring in the other relationships we have with the other treatment centers, because
Right.
we're a team. And in order to do these things and provide the level of care, the need for treatment, the need for recovery, the demand, we have to do it all together.
Right.
And
We
this-
can't fit it all here. We have to be
Yeah.
partners with others in the community.
And this is a platform.
Right.
And so reach out to us. If you want to be on the show, I got people reaching out to us from all over.
All the time.
Reaching out, wanting to be on the show. We're going to continue to introduce other people to the show that aren't members of Sanctuary, but part of our team.
Exactly.
And Erin, you're a big part of our team, so thank you for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It was fun. This was a fun one, Jason.
It's a fun one.
It definitely was.
I like having fun.
Yeah, me too.
All right, tune
I'm
in.
glad I'm not as nervous, so I can actually talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tune in for the next episode. We're going to be dropping an episode every week. Typically, they're going to come out on Friday, so be ready and keep on listening and supporting us.
See you guys next time.
See you next time.